Hi everyone. Have you been moved by someone or something? A Netflix drama 폭삭 속았수다 was in huge popularity for a while. There were many moving stories in there. One of mine was that the father gave money to his neighbors in secret to buy sweet rice cake that his son Eunmyeong was selling at night, so that the son might not be in despair. There is a story in the Bible too that a Roman centurion, a professional officer in the Roman army, not just moved but amazed even Jesus. The story goes like this. Jesus entered Capernaum. There a centurion servant who was sick and about to die. The centurion heard of Jesus and sent some elders of the Jews to him, asking him to come and heal his servant. When they came to Jesus, they pleaded earnestly with him, "This man deserves to have you do this, because he loves our nation and has built our synagogue." So Jesus went with them. He was not far from the house, but the centurion sent friends to say to him, "Lord, don't trouble yourself, for I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. That's why I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with the soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him, and turning to the crowd following him, he said, "I tell you, I've not found such great faith even in Israel." Then the man who had been sent returned to the house and found the servant well. Here we see that this centurion had compassion in his heart. At that time, a servant was like a slave and was not considered as a person but property. If a servant had been sick and unable to perform his duties, he would have been sold or thrown out. But this centurion truly felt pity for the servant to the extent that he wanted to ask Jesus to heal him. The centurion was also a person who had done good to others in daily life, enough to be recognized and respected by people. He loved the nation even though he was there as an officer of the occupation forces, and he had concern for the life of the Jews enough to have built a synagogue for them. He was respected by the people as much, and the Jewish elders wanted to help him out of their gratitude for what he had done for them. In a nutshell, this centurion was a really good person with a compassionate heart even for his servant and doing good to others out of genuine concern for their well-being. However, this centurion thought he didn't deserve to have Jesus come into his house. He even didn't think of himself worthy to come to Jesus in person, and he asked Jesus just to say the word. Then his servant would be healed. How could he have this faith in Jesus? Do you remember the story that Jesus once drove out a demon from a demon-possessed man in the synagogue in Capernaum? The people of Capernaum were astonished and asked, "What words these are? With authority and power he gives orders to impure spirits, and they come out." This news quickly spread throughout the surrounding area. The centurion must have heard this as well, since he lived in Capernaum. When he heard the news about Jesus, he must have been in awe of Jesus, thinking, if Jesus' words had the authority to make evil spirits surrender, then Jesus must be divine himself. It was because he knew that authority comes from position. The centurion experienced this every day in his life. His subordinates had to obey what he commanded. This was possible not because of his character or wealth, but because of his position as a centurion. Recognizing the authority of Jesus' words, the centurion realized Jesus' divine position. The authority of Jesus' words to make spirits surrender meant that Jesus had the spiritual position that carried the authority. Although not explicitly stated, he may have thought Jesus would be the Messiah the Jews had been waiting for, the Son of God. So he was in awe of Jesus, considering himself so undeserving before him. It was this faith of the centurion that amazed Jesus. The Israelites who prided themselves on their knowledge of God were reluctant to acknowledge Jesus as the Messiah, or Jesus having divinity, and they rejected him. However, this Gentile, who was thought to know nothing about God, understood who Jesus was better than they understood Jesus. He foreshadowed the many Gentiles who would come to Jesus with greater faith than the Jews. An amazing faith is to recognize Jesus as he is. It is to believe Jesus as the Son of God who has the divine authority in his words, and accept him as our Savior. When we recognize him this way, he will recognize us too. We want to invite you to our worship, 11 a.m. every Sunday at A302 Undergrad Building. Everyone is welcome.